Swedish model of sex work is a legislation that was enacted in 1999 in Sweden. The legislation makes it illegal to obtain or attempt to obtain sexual services for payment. That doesn't necessarily have to be defined as money. It can also be alcohol, drugs, or food, for example. The Swedish model was first introduced in Sweden, but now it is also used in Norway, Iceland, Ireland, Canada, and France. The legislation was first introduced by radical feminists who defined prostitution as a problem of male behavior and a form of violence against women. The goal of the legislation is to abolish sex work altogether. Sex workers are facing many difficulties in the job and are experiencing dangerous situations. There is increased competition because clients are less willing to buy sex publicly. The workers may need to provide services they didn't previously want to offer, and they can refuse clients as easily as there are less clients available. Also, clients may not want to provide real information on them that can act as an insurance in case they are abusive, and also clients are less likely to report another abusive client in the fear of being caught as well.
The whole Swedish population is so aware of that all people, well, women, we only talk about women even though there are loads of men selling sex, but all women in sex work are victims. So now if they suspect that a neighbor is selling sex, they will, like good citizens, call the police and just tell them about it, which means that the woman will lose her apartment. Because the landlord is obliged to throw her out, otherwise he will get charged of pimping. So. And also, I mean, there are numbers of cases where sex workers, and I'm not even talking about, people working in prostitution, also women working in striptease or in porn films, they lost their kids, because they're unfit mothers. Not because they're sex workers, but because they're sex workers that don't understand, the need to stop. It's bigger in the streets, which means that they turn into indoor workers, even if they prefer buying sex from outdoor workers, which left the outdoor workers with the bad clients, with the dangerous clients, which they before had an opportunity to turn down, but now they can't afford to because many of the good clients are gone. In the sex industry, there are people that are, being abused, that are suffering, that are trafficking victims, etc. But, the normal way for the police to find out is not from sex workers, it's from clients. Because they're actually not clients or assholes. There will be clients that say, oh, this doesn't look good. They will call the police. And of course, now they don't call the police anymore. Because if they call the police, they will be accused of a crime.
Criminalization of sex work is the answer. This is defined as the removal of all statutory penalties for prostitution and things related to its facilitation, such as advertising.
The people in the industry should have high-quality services such as housing, legal advice, addiction services, and long-term emotional and psychological support.
Well, sex work is work too. Just like you, some of us like our jobs, some of us hate them. Ultimately, most of us have mixed feelings. But how we feel about our work isn't the point. And how others feel about our work certainly isn't. What's important is that we have the right to work safely and on our own terms. Sex workers are real people. We've had complicated experiences and complicated responses to those experiences. But our demands are not complicated. You can ask expensive escorts in New York City, brothel workers in Cambodia, street workers in South Africa, and every girl on the roster at my old job in Soho, and they will all tell you the same thing. You can speak to millions of sex workers and countless sex worker-led organizations. We want full decriminalization and labor rights as workers.
To conclude, the Swedish model does not work because it makes the work more difficult and more dangerous for the sex workers. Instead, sex work should be fully decriminalized and it should have same laws as any job. Additionally, the stigma around it needs to end, because the truth is that sex work will probably always exist, so we need to make the job as safe and comfortable for the workers as possible. You can donate to the following organizations that fight for the sex workers' rights.